City Civil Service Commission scraps 60% of the punishment for a former NOPD captain accused of repeatedly abusing the department's off-duty detail program.
However, the commission found Sabrina Richardson did commit significant violations. Here's our latest attention to the details investigation. Sabrina Richardson was demoted from captain to lieutenant and suspended for 120 days following an internal investigation into accusations of payroll fraud. But Richardson appealed that unpaid suspension before the city's Civil Service Commission. Richardson was the subject of a series of Fox 8 investigations that found 26 instances where she double-dipped, working on-duty NOPD and an off-duty detail shift at the same time. An NOPD Public Integrity Bureau investigation led by Chief Nick Gernon backed up our findings. The PIB investigation found 44 instances of wrongdoing by Richardson, including 17 instances of apparent double-dipping. Richardson argued before the Civil Service Commission that 13 of the 17 alleged double-dipping instances happened after she was promoted to captain of the NOPD's Public Integrity Bureau, the arm of the NOPD that investigates misconduct within the department. She claimed she shifted her schedule to accommodate working off-duty details, but hadn't changed her timesheets. Richardson said her timesheets auto-populate in the NOPD's payroll system, and that she never shifted the times to reflect changes in her schedule, essentially saying she didn't work the times listed in the payroll system. The Civil Service Commission agreed and threw out the 13 instances of alleged double-dipping. However, the commission upheld 4 other violations that happened before Richardson was promoted to captain. In separate findings by the PIB, the commission also examined instances when Richardson was paid for details, but license plate reading cameras showed her NOPD vehicle was miles away from the location of that detail. Fox 8 also found several of these examples, including November 27th of 2021. Leading up to the Bayou Classic, Richardson worked a detail at Champion Square from 11 a.m. till 4 p.m. But at 1:07, a license plate reading camera captured this picture of her police unit on the West Bank across the river, 5 miles away from Champion Square. About an hour later, another camera caught her police unit on Chef Highway in New Orleans East, 6.5 miles from Champion Square. In that instance, Richardson claimed that another person was using her NOPD vehicle to move her belongings while she was working the detail. The Civil Service Commission report doesn't say who Richardson loaned her police unit to or if they had clearance to drive it. Commissioners upheld punishments for 9 different occasions when Richardson was supposed to be working an off-duty detail in the Fairgrounds neighborhood, but license plate reading cameras caught her vehicle 9 miles away on the West Bank near her home. The commission found Richardson hadn't informed anyone at the Office of Police Secondary Employment that she left those details and never adjusted her hours to match. The commission found Richardson violated the NOPD's rules while captain of the Public Integrity Bureau, concluding they would expect a ranking member of the police department to report a pattern of abuse, not profit from it. In all, the commission upheld 43 days of Richardson's suspension and overturned 73. Richardson will be reimbursed for those 73 days of lost wages, and they will be removed from